You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. Well, I'm looking around the coffee shop. Whole bunch of people here. Andy Zach, how are you?
Hi, Jesse. I'm so glad to meet you.
Oh, it's good of you to pay me a visit at the coffee shop. So, a little bird told me you've got a book launch coming up.
Well, you have a smart bird there. Yes, my Undead Mother-in-Law is coming out this very Saturday, August 5th.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That is really awesome. I think book launches are so exciting. All right, you got to tell me a little bit about it.
Well, my Undead Mother-in-Law is the second volume in my humorous zombie series, Life After Life Chronicles. And it deals with an ordinary family that turns zombie. And the story is told from the point of view of the unzombie son-in-law and daughter, where they start out with a visit to their zombie relatives, and mayhem ensues.
Okay, now is this the typical zombie thing where if they bite you or attack you or something, you turn into a zombie?
No, it's not that easy at all. There's a certain protocol to become a zombie, and you basically have to want to become a zombie in this book. And everything you know about zombies, forget, because I turn it all on its head and make it funny.
Okay. It sounds fascinating. I can't wait to get my hands on it. And you said it's out August 5th. That's awesome. Book releases are so much fun, but they're also a lot of hard work.
Oh, man, yeah. I've been running around busier than a paper hanger with one arm.
Oh boy, that's a good one. So,
old one.
It is a very old one, but it's always funny. How long did it take you to write this book?
Well, the original plan was to write it in November. It was November of 2016. It was to be a novel for November. Crank out 50,000 words in 1 month. And that's how I get motivated to crank out words. I only did 48,000, and I was over 10,000 short of how much it ended up. It took me almost 60,000 words to finish it up, and it had to grind back and forth until all the way into March of 2017. By the end of March, I was in fairly good shape, and I sent it off to my editor at that time.
Well, I'm glad of two things. One, I do know about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month.
Yes.
Now, I'm not a NaNoWriMo. I've tried, and repeatedly failed. But what I do is if you check out my website, Jesse's Coffee Shop, there's actually a chat room for NaNoWriMo hiding on it.
Cool.
So, and it's pretty active during the month of November. I have a couple of ML friends that, you know, they're the moderators. They keep an eye on it. And occasionally I'll pop in and visit with what I affectionately call my wordsmiths.
Yes.
So
that's a great motivator, I tell you that. And it keeps you cranking every day for a month.
I tried last year. I think I got somewhere either 3,000 or 5,000 words in 30 days.
Oh, my. Let me guess. You're a radio star, but you're not a novelist.
I am not a writer. Now, our station manager is, and one of our other show hosts is. They're writers. But I'll stick with the audio.
That's fine. We need you. Us authors, poor authors, need someone articulate.
Well, I do my best. Some people will say I'm not the most articulate in the bunch, but I do have a passion for books and a love of reading them.
You'd fit right into our family. We sit around the living room reading books in the evening.
That sounds amazing. So I am blessed with a wonderful reading speed, and my Kindle. Yes, I've resorted to Kindle. Is always with me.
We have, I think, 2 Kindles and a Nook, and then lots of books in the house.
Well, that's awesome. We can't do a lot of physical books because, well, if you read my bio, I am a Special Forces widow, but I remarried, and I married another member of the Armed Forces.
Ah.
So we move every 3 to 5 years, and there's this pesky thing called weight limit.
Uh-huh.
So that's why we do Kindle.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
Now, we each have our favorite couple of authors that we'll buy the hardback, but we probably buy the hardback to put on the shelf and read it on the Kindle.
Here is a truth. If you have a 1-bedroom house and you like books, you fill it up with books. If you have a 2-bedroom house, you fill it up. If you have a 3-bedroom house, you fill it up. 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, they all get filled up with books after a while.
That is quite true. So
your things expand to fill up the space you have.
That is very true. And we've had different size houses at different bases, so we have to be able to expand and contract based on the house. Now, enough about me. So I'm glad you used an editor. That's one thing that I hear that, I did it myself, and I just cringe.
Hate to send my first draft to anybody, and I consider anything before I send it to the editor my first draft, even though I go through it 2 or 3 times.
Well, that's a sign of a good book, actually, one that's been edited.
And not merely once. My editor does line editing with developmental and line approach, line-by-line sentence improvement throughout the novel. And then my editor also then finishes up with a copy edit when it's all done.
See, that's the way to do it. Now, are you self-published, traditional published, or some other hybrid method?
Great question. I am definitely self-published. After I wrote my first book, Zombie Turkeys, I researched publishing to see which path I should go. So the more I read, the more I was appalled at the state of publishing. And then I eventually settled on publishing through Amazon Kindle simply because it was the least amount of effort and work on my part.
Well, many people take that option, and I've found great books that are self-published as well as lousy books that are traditionally published. So I don't put either method down. I say to each their own.
Well, there was a stigma with self-publishing up until the 2000s, I'd say. And then after that, it's pretty much accepted by and large, except perhaps by the most literary snobs you can find.
I think it's a perfectly valid route. I've also heard of crowdsourced publishing and various other little things. So that's why I call those fit in what I call the hybrid models.
Yes.
Now, question about your book cover, which looks fantastic,
indeed.
By the way.
Thanks so much.
Did you do that yourself, or did you pay someone to do the book cover?
Definitely paid someone to do it. I can write, I cannot draw, and my son's best friend from school, from 6 years old, they've been friends, and he became a fine artist and illustrator, Sean Flanagan. He did both covers in both books, Zombie Turkeys and My Undead Mother-in-Law.
Now that sounds like the way to go. Somebody who's actually a graphic artist.
Oh, absolutely. And he's passion is graphic novels, so we're converting Zombie Turkeys to a graphic novel.
Oh, that sounds fun. So you're going to have a relaunch of Zombie Turkeys as a graphic novel. That'll attract a whole new audience.
That's the plan. And I can give all credit to Sean and my son for pushing me to that direction.
Well, that's amazing. So, are you a plotter? Do you sit down and plot out your novels?
Great question again. Yes, definitely. And for those who don't know, there are like two kinds of people. People where the book kind of grows without a plot from the characters, and then there's the plotters who plot and outline. I'm very much a plotter, much more so than I realized, because I will start with a concept in mind, and from that concept, the whole plot emerges, sometimes almost instantaneously. And with my undead mother-in-law, the idea was to see what happens when you have a normal family become zombie. And can I take the zombie phenomena that I had in Zombie Turkeys and apply it to human beings and make it still funny?
I love reading all kinds of things, and a humorous book at the end of the day can be just the thing I need to unwind after a long day. So I will definitely have to check this book out. I will admit, I believe you sent me a copy. I have not had a chance to read it.
Well, you might be surprised, but out of the hundreds of free copies that have been distributed, I would bet the majority have not been read. So that's what happens with free book copies.
Oh, all of mine eventually get read, trust me. They go onto my Kindle, which very rarely leaves my side.
Ah, that's excellent. So you have opportunity to read in your idle moments between radio shows.
One of my daily routines, not quite daily, but as often as I can make it happen. Excuse me, Mr. Frog was trying to input his 2 cents.
Take another sip of coffee.
Yeah, I think I will freshen up my cup and take a drink.
Yeah, that always helps me. I have my coffee right here beside me.
One of my daily little rituals, or as often as I get a chance, is actually to go to my local Sonic Drive-In. It's a fast food chain.
Yes.
And I try and arrive during their half-price drink special and get the ginormous drink. And then I'll sit there with my Kindle, sometimes for hours if I've got the time. And that's where I do the majority of my reading.
Okay. That's like a free space rental for the cost of a coffee.
Exactly. For the cost of the drink, I got the space and the time, and I'm in my own little world called my vehicle. So
that all works.
It definitely does work. It's a fun thing for me, but it's my way of relaxing and getting into a good book, and it's where I carve out the time.
Now, on the writing side, what happens with some of my friends who are authors, they will go to a coffee shop, just like yours, and kick back, have their cup of coffee, and write.
I've tried that. I get inevitably sidetracked into reading.
Ah, yes. I have that problem even in my cloistered room where I crank out humorous zombie novels. I can be easily sidetracked.
What made you decide to use zombies? I mean, Zombie Turkeys, Undead Mother-in-Law. What made you decide that the zombie was your character?
Great question. And it's not what you think. It had nothing to do with the current zombie craze. In fact, I was largely oblivious and uninterested. I'd read a couple of zombie novels, but they were just kind of like background. And it all happened before Thanksgiving. I knew I was going to be laid off, or actually forcibly retired from my former job. And I was trying to think, well, what kind of book can I write for a NaNoWriMo? 1 month book, something fun and easy to write. And we had fried turkey for a test of our turkey fryer. We had just gotten a new one. And around the dinner table, we were eating the turkey, and someone laughed and said, well, what if it came back to life? Well, it's sitting there on the table, and I thought, oh, it'd be like a zombie turkey. And so from that one incident, I thought of a whole plot.
That is outstanding. Like I said, I've tried to write. My words seem to come out better spoken.
Go with what works, and it's working for you there, Jesse. I like writing.
I'd love to write, but it just doesn't seem to be my thing.
I like the whole idea of plotting and planning out the book. The second book, My Undead Mother-in-Law, was much more complicated, and I plotted the whole thing scene by scene in a spreadsheet, including times and dates for every scene and the transitions between them. Love doing that.
I think that is outstanding. So you actually worked off a spreadsheet. Now, do you just write in Microsoft Office, in Word or?
Yeah, just use Microsoft Office in one window, and I have Microsoft Excel in the other one where I keep track of my spreadsheet plan, and I keep track of my words per hour and my words per minute, and how many I've written so far, running totals. All of that is on my spreadsheet.
Now, when I decided I was going to try writing, and like I said, try, because, well, I'm not a wordsmith or a writer. I was introduced to a software program called Scrivener.
Oh, I've heard that. I actually have a free version. I haven't tried yet.
And I will say it does have a little bit of a learning curve, but, and I tried picking around with things, different ideas. None of them ever came to pass for more than a couple thousand words. But it had a place for research and a place for pictures and, I could have character outlines. I got more into doing the background stuff and never writing the book. And I'd inevitably get up. I'd go to research one little thing and spend my hours chasing down some obscure fact.
You're almost there to being a novelist. That's kind of like my experience with My Undead Mother-in-Law. I had to research things like super yachts, the layout of Manhattan, Kansas airport, the location of National Guard bases and U.S. Marine bases in New Orleans. And all of those kinds of bits of trivia went into the novel.
I was actually trying to find a couple of obscure details about a chemical weapon. Not something that John Q. Public generally chases.
Have you had any visits from our National Security Agency?
No, I have not.
Well, you probably didn't do enough research.
Yeah, didn't Tom Clancy get several visits from national security type people?
I've heard a rumor of that sort of thing. And also authors that have studied serial killers have gotten some curious inquiries.
Anybody looking through my Kindle would either think I'm crazy, a serial killer, or just horribly undecided.
Well, I hope you're not a serial killer.
Nah.
That's all I can say.
Unless you want to call us, I'm a serial reader of books. I get started reading and, yeah, I'm done.
I can understand that. Certainly, I am that way. So is my daughter. So is my wife. So
you write in this almost, what genre do you say your book falls in?
I invented the genre, and I claim it as my own. Comic urban fantasy. And it's basically current day society, but it has zombies in it.
So kind of a dystopian urban fantasy with a comedic twist.
Yeah. If you consider current society dystopian, yeah.
Well, I was thinking of the zombies as the dystopian part.
Well, certainly they contend toward that. It just depends on how the plot goes, with how dystopian it gets.
Well, that's true. That's true. So you're definitely a plotter. Have you ever tried just to write and see what happens without any big ideas?
I can't imagine doing that. It seems like such a waste of time. I would have no point in writing without having a goal to start with.
Okay. And I've had multiple answers to that question. So when you were doing your research and publishing, what made you decide to go self-pub?
I think the clinching moment, well, first of all, let's go describe traditional publishing in case people don't know. In traditional publishing, you first get an agent. So you have to sell your book and yourself to an agent that you are a marketable author with a marketable book. That's the first step. Then the agent has to sell you and your book to an editor within that publisher. Then, or some other publisher for general agents. Then the editor has to actually sell your project to the publisher itself, so it actually gets produced by that publisher. Then they decide how many books to print, and they take your book and they adapt it to make it more commercially acceptable. So they may change the cover, they may change the title, they may change the contents after they do their editing. And then hopefully we'll get published. The thing that killed me was when I realized they would sometimes print in units of 5,000 books, send them out to bookstores, and then the bookstores had the full right to send them back if they didn't sell, and then they'd all be pulped for the next book. When I realized how wildly inefficient that whole process was, I said, forget it. I'm going to do it myself.
I'm guessing you also like having control over the cover and the exact little details in your book, and you know that nobody can force you to change anything except your editor.
Well, that's kind of true. And control freak much? Yeah, kind of. Me and my first daughter, I have two daughters. My first daughter is also very much wants to control what happens around her. And so we have that in common. And I basically want it to turn out the way I want it to turn out. And if no one buys it, that's fine. I'll learn and do something different next time.
Okay, so it was the fact of giving up control and being able to basically steer your own ship that got you to do the self-published route.
And also time, because everything takes time. In traditional publishing, it would be odd to publish more than once a year for any traditional publisher, whereas I have my two books published 9 months apart, and that's much faster. Everything is faster when you're self-publishing. Okay.
So was there any monetary thought to it, or no?
No, my monetary thought was I'm not going to make any money. That was my starting point, that I'm not going to make much money. I'm going to do this to learn about writing and publishing, which I've definitely done, and then hopefully to entertain those who buy the book. And so far, people have been entertained.
Well, I will say the premise sounds absolutely hilarious. I can't wait to crack it open.
Well, I'm eager. Are you a review writer? Would you be kind enough to write a review?
I am not. But what I do, when I find one I like, I will usually add a note to the bottom of the Jesse's Coffee Shop if I've read it before the air date, which before it airs, and I'll say, I read this, it's a fun read, or I'll say something a little bit about the book about my reading it. You know, easy read, kept me in stitches. I won't give away a spoiler. That's
okay. That's good.
I don't do your classic review.
That's fine. To me, that sounds like what I would call an Amazon review, where a person just reads the book and writes one sentence what they think.
Right, and I'll usually tack that on to the end of when I post in conjunction when the episode airs. I put up your book cover, your book blurb, and your bio on my website, and I with the episode, and I send all that out on Twitter, on Facebook. I make sure you get several links to it, and also that I give you a version of the audio so you can put on your website.
Wonderful. That's just great.
So I would advise...
Then I will link to your show from my website.
I will actually give you a widget, and that's one of the things about being in control, where you don't actually have to link to it. You can actually embed this episode of my show on your website. So
can't beat that with a stick.
So your fans don't have to go to mine, but I like having my own site, if nothing else. It's amusing.
Right. It is fun.
Because just like self-publishing, creating a website used to be a huge challenge.
Yes, professionals only.
Nowadays, with all the things like WordPress and all the themes that are out there, you pretty much have what they call a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get environment. It takes away a lot of the stigma of doing it yourself.
That's great.
So, did you build your own website?
No. I hired a professional developer to create the website using WordPress, and then I was not happy with the outcome, and now I'm having it redesigned and remade by another professional editor, professional developer. So I can devote time to website development and maintenance, or I can devote time to writing, and I'd rather write.
Well, for a lot of people, they don't have the money to go out and get the professional web designer.
Well, if you have the mindset, I'm going to lose money already, then you don't care about throwing the money away.
True. That's a very good point. So, well, I think, Andy, we're going to, unfortunately, on the radio, we still got to pay bills around here. So I think we're going to refresh our coffee and take that ever-impending commercial break. And I will see all of you. Andy and I will be back on the other side.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
To be able to just get my son to St. Jude and not think about how we will pay for it, it just takes so much weight off of my family. St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
All right, thank y'all out there for hanging in there with us while we paid those bills. Andy, you enjoying that refill on that cup of coffee?
I'm getting more and more cranked up on a caffeine high.
Oh, that's always good. So, you retired for whatever reason, or you say forcibly retired from your day job. I call them all day jobs.
Yes.
And then what made you decide you wanted to write? I mean, you could have done 1,000 things. You could have decided you were going to go feed the pigeons in the park every day.
Well, that certainly sounds exciting, especially if the pigeons are zombies. But on the other hand, that's not interesting to me. No, I had always liked writing. I was thinking back to this before the interview. The first time I started liking writing was as an elementary student, probably 3rd grade. I think I was still printing at that point. And we would write stories as part of our writing exercises in class. And I just loved it as a kid, 9 or 10 years old. And so all through school, I always felt creative writing was the easy part of school. And then I go to college and I take my minor in creative writing. And my major was computer programming and systems analysis because I figured I needed to pay bills. And then from there, I had a 37-year career in computers and project management and Six Sigma black belt and all those normal business things. But I always loved writing more than any of those other things. So as soon as I had the chance, I went off and started writing again.
Wow. I mean, I can't imagine earning a Six Sigma black belt. For those listeners who have no clue what that is, could you give them just the thumbnail definition of this? Because
oh, yes.
I know, but I'm willing to bet they don't.
That's Six Sigma Black Belt is basically a project manager that takes a look at a current process that's not working well. And the first thing to do is define what's wrong. Then you measure how it's currently behaving. Then you brainstorm and come up with ways of improving it. And there's a whole lot of techniques to do that. And then you make your improvements, and then you measure it again and see how much it's improved. And there are certain statistical techniques you can do to prove that it is the process, whether it's, say, resolving credit card fraud or paying bills on a accounts payable system. You can measure how effective it is before and afterward. And then depending on how effectively the project's run and how good the solution is, you see somewhere between 2 and 3 sigmas improvement. So a sigma is a measurement of a degree of error, and 6 sigma means 1 error in about 3 million or so. So most business processes I've worked on start at about errors in the 1 to 2%, which is like 1 sigma, 2 sigma. And most of the time we get them up to 4 or 5 sigma, so 1 error in 10,000 to 100,000.
Wow, that also sounds like a very fascinating concept. And just for the record, you're not the first Six Sigma black belt I've met.
Well, excuse me, I'm impressed now.
Hey, you never know who Jesse's tripped over. I have guests on the show. I sometimes get to meet the spouses and friends of guests, not to mention all my crazy radio cats, who most of them have spouses, friends. You'd be amazed.
No, I wouldn't. Sounds like it would actually be a fun job from my point of view, too.
Just like writing, it is a labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us have our day jobs as well.
Indeed.
But that explains to me why you're so analytical about your writing.
Oh, yes. And why I'm goal-oriented. You must achieve the goal.
That does explain a lot about the fact that you have to plot it out first. It really does. To me, that's just a fascinating little bit of backstory on you, for lack of a better term.
Well, yes, and I've learned that there are really those two kinds of authors, those who are plotters and those who are character-oriented and just kind of let the story grow around the characters.
I've generally heard them referred to as plotters or pantsers. Now, I've met one author during NaNoWriMo. She was in my chat room on my website. She couldn't tell me what genre she was going to write.
Mm-hmm.
It was a week before Nano. She couldn't tell me what genre she was going to write, anything about her main character. She's like, I'm just going to sit down and start writing. I'll figure it all out as I go.
Yes. I belonged to a writers group, and we were discussing the two kinds of writers, and most of the group are the pantsers, where they just sit down and start writing. And I always am astonished by that.
Now, I've also heard of a hybrid.
Oh, yeah.
They plot out the main points. A has to happen, B has to happen, C has to happen, D has to happen. How we get from A to B and B to C, I have no clue. Mm. But A, B, and C have to happen.
Yeah.
So I've heard of all variations, but the Six Sigma Black Belt tells me why you wanted control over the entire process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm process control. It's what it's all about.
So do you have a favorite mainstream author or a favorite author that you read? What do you read when you have time to sit down and read?
Great question. There's so many good authors out there. So I'm not going to denigrate any author because there's a lot of great ones out here. And I assume you want contemporary authors because I like a lot of older authors as well, like C.S. Lewis, Madeleine L'Engle, and going back to J.R. Tolkien. So all of those works are like 40 and 50 years old. But we go to contemporary authors. Most of my genres I read are fantasy and science fiction. And of those, I like to read John Ringo quite a bit, military science fiction. In fact, a lot of my main zombie literature I've read was from John Ringo and his Dark Tide Rising. That is probably where I first got the idea of a zombie novel.
That's fascinating. So you draw inspiration from the world around you. Do you ever just plain get stuck on when you're trying to plot out a novel?
Yeah, and so far it's happened 2 out of 2 times. What happens is I will write a fun, exciting scene, and I have another scene in mind for a next chapter or two. But getting from point A to point B, I don't see any way to get there. So I'm stuck, and I don't want to write the transition scene because I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, and I don't know where to go from there. So I actually solved that this last book. What I did was I went ahead and wrote the scene I wanted to write first without worrying about the transition, just completely leave the transition off. And then I went backwards, step before the next scene, what happened? And then a step before that, what happened? And then the step before that, what happened? And then as I went backwards, I eventually connected the 2 scenes.
Okay, so you're not one of those that plots out every little detail.
No, not the transitions. I have the major events.
Okay, so that kind of puts you into my hybrid plotter pantser category. Well,
I wonder if I'm genetically modified as well. I'm hybrid.
Well, your books are definitely hybrid, so it would kind of fit your self-described genre there.
Yeah, I guess so.
So what's an average day like for you? What do? You get up and do you write every day, or do you just write during November, or how does it work?
I'm still working on what my schedule looks like. Remember, I'm still a young author in the sense my first book was just published a year ago on Halloween. Zombie Turkeys came out. Now My Undead Mother-in-Law is coming out in August. And so I'm still learning about my schedule. But after I get over the big push, the daily push of my first draft, and I do work on that pretty much every day for hours. So after I get past that, then I have a lot of promotion work to do. But let's just talk about writing. For when I'm in the writing mode, I try to get started no later than 10 o'clock in the morning. I'll write from 10 to 12 and take a lunch break. I'll have lunch and then I'll get some exercise. Then I'll go back to work, try and get some start working again by 1 o'clock, and then keep up until 5. So I try to get at least 6 hours of writing work in when I'm in complete full-bore writing mode. In between books, a lot more is on promotion and social media, but I also try to write like short stories or start plotting out the next book.
So do you have another one you're plotting right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. The working title is Paranormal Patriots, and that's probably going to be even more complicated than My Undead Mother-in-Law. Zombie Turkeys was a very simple plot, in my opinion. My Undead Mother-in-Law was more complicated, and this will probably be more complicated still.
Well, I can't wait to have you back for the what was that other title?
Paranormal Patriots.
Paranormal Patriots. Yeah, that one.
Don't make a tattoo yet because it may change, but
I can't wait to have you back to discuss that one.
Anytime.
So I always love recurring guests.
Your coffee shop here. I love the smell when you go in the door. It's great.
I try and have a very soothing atmosphere.
Yes, and I am soothed. I'm not raging. I'm not throwing furniture around.
I discourage the crash bang boom of furniture. It means it's one more thing for me to replace.
Right, and so what you're telling me, you've never had a coffee shop fight in your coffee shop?
Nope, not yet, and let's just say I'd like to keep it that way. So,
well.
What do you do to promote your books?
Quick answer is not enough. The long answer is everything I can, and that includes I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I have my blog. I have advertisements on websites like Goodreads and Book Daily. And I also advertise on Amazon, certain search words.
Okay. So you do actually do a combination of just social media and more traditional advertising.
Yes, and then my best method is still personal appearances. I try to schedule personal appearances, interviews, and reviews as well. That's why I'm kind of hyped up on reviews. Every review is like another advertisement from one of your readers.
Yes, it is. But like I said, I'm not a book reviewer. I like to talk about the process and what goes on. I like to pull back the curtain a little bit because every writer's behind the scenes is a little bit different from that other writer.
Absolutely. Just like every person is different.
And every book is different.
Yeah. Even the first two I wrote, same author, same genre, same general environment, and even a lot of the same characters, but completely different in plotting.
So, you are a NaNoWriMo participant. How did you find out about NaNoWriMo?
Oh my, let's think. You're going back to 2015. That was when I wrote Zombie Turkeys. And I had found out about it, I believe, from one of my son's friends who liked to write and was encouraging us to write. And I thought, I should try that. And so once I heard about it and then I got the retirement, I then went forward and I wrote the book.
It sounds like you achieved your goal of writing the book.
Yes, definitely. And that's satisfying in itself, even regardless of book sales or anything else.
So you write your book, you get it edited. I'm presuming there's a couple different rounds of edits and revisions in between there. And then you publish your book, or you get it ready for publication, which I'm sure is a time-consuming task. And
yes,
then,
editing the first time took like 5, 6. It took probably 8 months in the first book. And then the second book, it took, April to July. So it only took 3 months.
Well, that either means you're getting better at your craft or your editor is excellent at choosing their direction, or both.
Yes, I think both. The editor is getting used to me, and I'm getting used to my editor, and we're learning.
I think it's great when you can pair with one other person and just work through the process repeatedly with the same person.
Yes, keeping the same team going. So I have the same illustrator for both my books, the same editors for both my books, because I have a content editor and then I have a layout editor for the interior design of the book.
Wow. So you really do try and make this as close to a traditionally published book as possible.
Oh, yeah. The major criticism I've heard of independent published books was crummy editing, both layout as well as content. And so I felt it was worth the money to pay the editors and get a professional result. And I feel, at least in the format and the quality of the words, it is a professional result. You may not like the story, but it's a professional result.
So in the appearance of the book, the layout and all that, it's a very professional result. Obviously, reading tastes are subjective. So what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with their writing?
Okay. I go back to the seven laws of success, 7 habits of highly effective people by Stephen Covey. And the number 1 is begin with the end in mind. What is your goal? What kind of book do you want to write? And what result do you want out of this book? Do you just want to produce a book for yourself, for your friends and family, or do you want it to be purchased by other people? If you want it to be purchased, then what good, what benefit does your book deliver to your end reader? And so those are the kind of like clarifying questions that should help most writers.
One of my favorite authors says their ultimate goal is, it's a thrill. My favorite author is a thriller writer.
Uh-huh.
And he always says, toes in the sand, book in the hand, beach read.
Ah, okay.
And he says,
that's a very clear goal.
My goal is to take you on a white-knuckle thrill ride.
That's a very clear objective as well. My goal, when you put it in those terms, it would be with my books, is to surprise the reader and make you laugh.
Sounds like outstanding advice. So for someone who is having trouble setting goals, what advice would you give them, since you seem to be a goal-setting expert?
Oh, my, yeah. Well, it's a little hard for me to put my head around the idea of not having a goal. So I've always set goals from the time I was a little kid. So it's kind of natural for me. Usually, and from a Six Sigma point of view, is what is your number one problem right now? What is your undesirable state that you have, and how do you want to change it? What is your desired state, and what is your undesired state? What's the difference between them? And your goal should be to go from one to the other. That's kind of putting it in Six Sigma terms.
Well, I think that's great advice for the listeners, because I know I have many writers as well as just plain book aficionados that do listen to my show.
Oh, my.
Oh, I've got a little bit of everybody, believe it or not. Some of the listeners of my regular show, which focuses on military and international affairs, will also listen to my coffee shop episodes. So, and those
very
are
good.
Two very.
I'm interested in your international affairs show because I certainly am.
Well, I will tell you more about it as soon as we conclude the interview. So, when did you say, how did you pick your launch date? When did you say, okay, it's going to be August 5th? How did you come up with the date?
That's a great question again, because I started with, I just picked July 31st at random without any thought, because I knew I wanted to give myself a timeline and force myself to accomplish the intermediate development and publishing goals on a timeline. So I was what we call in project management time boxing. So you have a time box where you will achieve this goal within this time frame. And if you do whatever is necessary to achieve it within that time frame. So you go, once I have a date of July 31st, you work backwards. I figured it takes 2 months to edit. That's what it did last time. Actually, I went backwards 3 months to edit, which is what it actually took this time. And I wanted it to be available in July for pre-sales, so I figured I needed to have the book completely ready by July 1st, and I needed to have all the edits then completed by June 30th. So working backwards 3 months takes me from June, May, April. April is when I sent the copy off to my editor, so that was my back planning. And so that meant all of my edits had to be done by March 31st. And that after my initial NaNoMo work in November, I was about 3 scenes short of the book completion. I had to finish, I think, last 2 chapters, and I had to do a bunch of transitions. So I finished up all of my first draft by, I believe it was February or March. And then I started with my second draft, where I went through and I filled in the holes, tried to find any stupid mistakes, which there were plenty, created a detailed time line to show time sequence to make sure I didn't do anything stupid where I contradicted myself. And then I got it all completed by March 31st and sent it off to my editor.
Well, we've come about to the end of our time, so like I do with all my guests, will you please tell everyone where they can find more about you and your books out there in the great world of social media?
All right, let's start with the books, because I'm merely the author. The books, if you want to get them, Zombie Turkeys, the first volume, and My Undead Mother-in-Law, the second volume, are both available on Amazon, both Amazon Kindle, as well as Amazon print versions. And make sure you look for the alternate versions if you want the print version instead, because they are there as well. So do a search for Andy Zack and you'll find it, or you can do a search for Zombie Turkeys, or you can do a search for My Undead Mother-in-Law, and I'll be available there. If you don't want to do any searching, you can go on to my website, zombieturkeys.com, which has all my books and the links that you need to go and purchase them. So you can go there, and I also have my blog, which I write on my blog 3 or 4 times a week, and it also gives you an opportunity to get free excerpts and the weekly newsletter, which gives you late-breaking news from the Zombie Turkey front, Andy Zack's doings, my next book, Paranormal Patriots, author appearances, all kinds of things, fun interviews like this. And let's see, that's 2. Then we have Twitter. I'm at Andy Zack numeric 2, and that's on Twitter. I'll tweet stuff, usually links to my blogs. I'm also on Twitter as zombie_turkeys and My Undead Mother-in-Law. I couldn't quite fit the whole thing. But if that's too confusing, you can find me on Facebook. I have a page on Facebook, a Zombie Turkeys book page. and also an Andy Zach page on Facebook, except it's Andy Zach Author on Facebook. So I'm all over the place.
Definitely sounds like you're everywhere. And as a reminder to my fellow authors, you can always shoot me an email at Jesse@KLRNradio.com. If you want to be a guest in the coffee shop, you can follow me on Twitter at Jesse's POV. And you can tune in here every Friday night on KLRNradio.com for another episode of Jesse's Coffee Shop. And with that, I think it's time to pour myself a refill and settle in with a good book.